For me, there's a simple rule in politics. Never ever be surprised by what happens in politics.
The face of truth is open. The eyes of truth are bright. The lips of truth are ever closed. The head of truth is upright. The breast of truth stands forward. The gaze of truth is straight. Truth has neither fear nor doubt. Truth has patience to wait. The words of truth are touching. The voice of truth is deep. The law of truth is simple. All you sow, you reap. The soul of truth is flaming. The heart of truth is warm. The mind of truth is clear and firm through rain and storm. Facts are only its shadow. Truth stands above all sin. Great be the battle of life. Truth in the end shall win. The image of truth is the cross. Wisdom's message is its rod. The sign of truth is Christ, and the soul of truth is God. Life of truth is eternal. Immortal is its past. Power of truth shall endure. Truth shall hold to the last.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living room. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
The alarm has been sounded over temporary forms of slavery in Canada. And that is a serious source of concern. The alarm has been sounded over contemporary forms of slavery in Canada. And also, somebody says bullying is a serious problem in St. Lucia. And another individual is of the opinion that the Prime Minister should have accepted overtures made by his political nemesis, and that is Alan Chasney, political leader of the opposition United Workers' Party. All that and more between now and 2 o'clock this afternoon, right here on Power 97.9 FM. We are also on YouTube and our NewsSpin Facebook page. My name is Timothy Poleon. A moment, your calls at 452-2979. That's 452-2979. Your WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026, and that is 716-2026. And Kimani will be going through some of your comments in the chat room. So stand by for all that and a whole lot more. Now, because of conditions in St. Lucia and the Caribbean that are unfavorable to many people who cannot find employment opportunities and find themselves in a desperate state, they have to look to what we might deem to be greener pastures on the face of it. Opportunities to work in countries like Canada. And you sense the desperation on the part of St. Lucians, male or female, when they get those opportunities. Because very often, no one would query the conditions that they'll be traveling to. People are not so even preoccupied with the pay. That is the impression that one gets. Because for you, as we've been saying over several, maybe a few centuries maybe, Half a loaf is better than none. And too often, our leaders, they do not represent the downtrodden. They do not take into consideration the plight of people who are in a desperate state, because they see it as an opportunity for them to come across as being individuals who take a keen interest in other individuals who cannot take care of themselves. And for them, they should be praised for that. But when desperation sets in, we must guard against the possibility that there could be exploitation, because health and safety will not be an issue when you are in a desperate state. It's all about bread and butter. Your own personal security does not matter to you because you are acting in a very impractical manner. You're not thinking of the reality of certain situations. And so a few years ago, when many people were traveling from St. Lucia to Canada to work there as farm workers, there's a lot of expression of satisfaction, and people had a glimmer of hope that things certainly would be working to their advantage. Well, since then, there's been some kind of complaints coming from those people who have participated in that program over in Canada. And a lot now is coming to the fore, even to the extent United Nations, UN experts are also monitoring the situation there, and they have sounded the alarm. So a piece reads, Tamoya Obokata, the Human Rights Council appointed special rapporteur on the global scourge of modern slavery, issued a statement at the end of a 14-day visit to Canada. He called on the Canadian government to intensify its efforts to safeguard workers' rights and offer a clear pathway to permanent residency for all migrants. I am deeply disturbed by the accounts of exploitation and abuse shared with me by migrant workers, he said. Employer-specific work permit regimes, including certain temporary foreign worker programs, make migrant workers vulnerable to contemporary forms of slavery, as they cannot report abuses without fear of deportation, Obokata said. He acknowledged recent policies enacted to promote human rights across the business sector, such as the creation of a Canadian ombudsperson for responsible enterprise, CORE, and other codes of conduct. But he emphasized the need to regularize the status of foreign migrant workers, citing the valuable skills they bring to the economy. I urge the government to bring forward legislation requiring Canadian companies to implement mandatory human rights due diligence and expand the independence, powers, and mandate of the CORE, he said. So, if you are working in Canada as a migrant worker, you face the possibility of deportation if you were to complain about certain abuses that you are being subjected to. And if you're vulnerable to such a vulnerable state, most people will keep quiet. Most people will suffer in silence. And what passes for representation in some of the islands, some of the countries, ministers with responsibility for labor and ministries responsible for labor not wanting to rock the boat, that would roil things to the extent that the Canadian employers would decide to send those workers back to their various destinations. I mean, on the local front, your labor department is not even sufficiently equipped to represent the workers on island, the various sectors, whether it's in the hotel, retail sector, wholesale sector, supermarkets, etc. They're just not equipped to do that. But I don't understand that some employees of the Labor Department, they're currently on a sick out. And maybe at some point in time, the Labor Ministry or Labor Minister will speak on that issue, because it's very strange, sick out at your Labor Department, just like a trade union, the workers there, let's say a secretariat, going on strike because of poor working conditions and not satisfied with the salary is a bit strange. But I'm sure that in time, Dr. Virginia Albert Poyot will like to address this particular issue. And so, back to the Canada situation and claims of workers being abused in one way or the other, and working under conditions that would be akin to what obtained during slavery. That certainly sounds very harsh and must be given the proper and appropriate treatment. So, very early on, we go into our NewsSpin news of the day. UN expert sounds alarm over contemporary forms of slavery in Canada. It was a fortnight ago that the Jamaican workers, some Jamaican workers working on the farms over in Canada, they raised the alarm and they were complaining that made the news in Canada, and I think this is the subject of ongoing investigation. Bullying is a serious problem in St. Lucia. And that is according to Alison Edward, clinical counselor and psychotherapist at the Wellness Center. She's also the manager of Embrace Counseling Services Limited, and she was my guest on last evening's Newsmaker Live broadcast on DBS television. It's not the first time we're hearing about bullying, but we have to look at it from a different perspective now. When we can also identify adults as being among the culprits, whether it is in the workplace, whether it is in the political arena, many adults are not setting the right example for students. And it was only this week we played a clip, but maybe we could try to get that clip of the education minister to coincide with the start of the new school year. I think it was on Monday of this week, when he said that bullying will not be tolerated in the island's education system. But this clinical counselor is saying, taking it one step further, saying it should not be accepted at all. As much as it is rife in the St. Lucian society, let us not limit it to the student population. Let us not limit it to young people. It should be across the board that this thing, this scourge, is unacceptable. Before we hear from her, let's hear Education Minister Mr. Sean Edward, a clip extracted from an interview he had on NBC's Zafenio program.
We are going to be particularly strong on students in our anti-bullying campaign.
Right. There
will be no room for that. We will adopt a zero tolerance approach when it comes to dealing with students who bully their peers and who make life uncomfortable for their peers and at the level of the school.
Education Minister Sean Edward. Should we leave it to the teachers and the principals to deal with this, or should we also extend it to the behavior of our adults, particularly politicians and the young people? For years we've been saying this, young people are watching the behavior of some parliamentarians during sittings of the House of Assembly, and we'll be asking whether that behavior is worthy of emulation. And of course, the straightforward answer is no. We hear now from Alison Edward, clinical counselor and psychotherapist.
We have bullying at the level of the school, starting even from kindergarten, bully one another. We have that in the primary schools, in the secondary schools, and it filters into organizations, and it filters even into the workplace. So all of that we have to look at and find out how is it we could tackle that problem of emotional regulation, because a lot of bullies, that's where it came from too. They don't have that. We have bullying at the level of the school, starting even from kindergarten, bully one another. We have that in the primary schools, in the secondary schools, and it filters into organizations, and it filters even into the workplace. So all of that we have to look at and find out how is it we could tackle that problem of emotional regulation, because a lot of bullies, that's where it came from too. They don't have that.
Alison Edward, clinical counselor and psychotherapist, speaking on bullying in St. Lucia, but in particular in the education system among students and how it should not be tolerated. We open the lines to take your calls right now at 452-2979, 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026, 716-2026. Good afternoon to you, Kimani. Here's hoping all is well. Have you been bullied lately?
Not as of late. Good afternoon, Tim.
All right. What's happening in the chat room?
Earlier, someone said, although I am late, Tim, you have not started. I will deduct from your pay.
My meager pay? That means I'm taking absolutely nothing home,
Not at all. Another comment, tribute to the father of our nation, Sir John, on the anniversary of his passing. May you continue to rest in power. Someone says, boy, I wish I could get the text I sent you, Timothy, last year for the strawberry picking. When I said it was a new kind of slavery, you said it was helping those going. They were getting employment. They were getting the employment at the bottom line. Now today, I don't want to hear about you. Someone says it's...
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, so maybe that individual has a crystal ball. They anticipated, they saw what was going to happen, and I wanted to be as optimistic as possible, because in St. Lucia we know so many single parents, single mothers, individuals who cannot make ends meet, and our governments have failed us miserably when it comes to employment opportunities, just relying on certain industries, certain sectors, and when those do not come through, people are on the breadline. So in some instances, when you get an opportunity, you want to be as positive as ever, but then things do not always play out the way you want it to.
Another comment, someone says you have to stop it in the House of Parliament first, referring to bullying. And someone says, it's like I've always said, slavery never ended, they replaced the whip with money. Another comment, fully agree, Minister, but what are the policies in place to curb the problem? Another comment in the chat room, recently we have seen parliamentarians endorse bullying. Some come to the cabinet and house meetings armed with a gun in order to get their way over their colleagues. That is bullying.
We have a call. Good afternoon to you. This is NewsSpin. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Tim. Good afternoon, Kimani.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rigobert. How are you, sir?
Good, I'm good, Tim. Yeah, moi te pour t'y poser et te ka réfléchir avec ça nous te dit moi te parler l'autre jour avec écoutez vie écoutez là on parler de là ou ka vie pour science en ça au dit vous comprenez que moi ouais été pour chai on ça science vous comprenez ensemble de là
oui
avec moi était la team avec moi joindre calls from America l'Angleterre tout partout. Vous comprenez? Because car dit moi tellement bien manière satisfait avec ça qui te dit. Vous comprenez? Avant moi de plus loin si moi ka dit en bagaille et moi pas vle mi monde mettre pièce tag en les moi ni dans jaune et bien rouge pas les belles moi. Vous comprenez? Just écouter parole, écouter la vérité à qui en dedans et ça ça joindre promener ou ka point. Ça on pas vle dans quitter y aller. Vous comprenez? Ça nous voulons parler à présent. L'autre bail là, moi, je voulais dire, Tim, n'importe là, nous quand mettre en fidjaï pour nous. Vous comprenez?
Oui.
Because nous te mettez en nom pour voir. Est-ce que vous comprenez?
Yeah.
So, n'importe l'autre là, food technology, nous quand mettre en fidjaï pour lui. Vous comprenez? Ça me voulait dire, est-ce about bullying? Bullying sorti à la tête des centimes. Il pas sorti par bas monter. Vous comprenez? si c'est pour yo corriger, yon pour corriger à la tête des sens. Vous comprenez ça, on veut dire là? Moun qui a autorité, qui a servi pouvoir yo, en les yon à l'autre, yon pour commencer from là. Pas juste aller à l'école là. Vous comprenez? Cet exemple, vous comprenez? So, au niveau, c'est moun qui a bouli moun, qui a travail, qui a House of Parliament, n'importe côté. Vous comprenez? You travaille à l'école, you travaille à l'établissement là. Because children will always be children. You understand what I'm saying? L'autre côté, à mon plaît, à l'étime, c'est about crime. Vous comprenez? Et crime là, quand aller comme ça pour un bon lait. Vous comprenez? De les moun à de misère qu'à ouais de voilà. Avec, yo pas même ni manger pour yo manger. Et qui ni moun ou savent-ils qui kay aller et qui fait un crime et ben voler. Vous comprenez? Just pour manger ou ça pour moi. Avec en opinion yo même, it's a win-win situation. Si moi joine manger à dans supermarché là moi joine, moi manger. Si moi pas manger avec yo tchebe moi là manger l'argent. Vous comprenez? So on chaque bagaille ni pour en manger à dans ces bagailles ça là, pour tout bout de ces bagailles ça là. Moi pas do bout to curve it. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's a win-win situation. Moun an joine manger, pas joine yo pour que l'argent li kay manger toujours. Vous comprenez? So pour que là nous kay do bout de ça. Bon l'autre bagaille là moi peut parler about là toujours. C'est les yo ba on travail pour faire team. Tout pas ça fait travail là ou ka faire les qui mani pour aider à des c'est pas oui ça là qui mani tout. Ou comment ça on les do là? Pas demander moun pour aider avec salaire ou ka joindre pour faire travail là ou pas parler about lui.
So qui moun ka parler about la premier ministre là?
Back ba. Kat mwen batim. Vous comprenez? C'est pour ça moi do. M'a voulu mettre pièces là moi ni rouge ni jaune ni rien. Vous comprenez? Mais I'm speaking in general thing. You understand? You are getting paid to do a work. It is too much for you. You cannot handle it. You need help to do the work. You understand? The salary that you are getting to the work. Share the salary with the people you want to help you. Who the cap fit, they will wear it. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, my brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay.
All right, take care. Yeah. So, who the cap fit, let them wear it? I'm sure I'll be playing that clip tomorrow during our NewsSpin program. All right, WhatsApp message. Somebody says, Monday evening we were notified that the Cicero government's preschool was reopening on Tuesday. I took my child to the school and Tim, the yard was in a mess with coconut shells, bits of block from the construction. The grass is almost the height of the children. I need the government or the district rep to give the school some attention. 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Why doesn't the minister take that same zero tolerance on bullying, the bullying approach towards crime and the criminals? Think we have some more WhatsApp messages. Tim, what? Okay, that's from yesterday. Okay, Tim and Spinners. Tribute to the father of our nation, Sir John, on the anniversary of his passing. May you continue to sleep in power as we remember you today. Today is actually the 16th anniversary of the death of Sir John Compton. Kimani, what do you know about Sir John? Anything at all?
That he's the father of the nation, or dubbed the father of the nation.
C'est tout?
No.
But I could just say, well, time really flies, you know, because it seemed only 5 years ago that Sir John passed away. But it is 16 years now since he departed this earth. And unfortunately, not many young people really know about him and his exploits and the fact that he basically paved the way for whatever development that we are going through right now. Now, he will also, and a lot of people admit that he could have done a whole lot better in terms of our human resource, taking care of the human resource. But I think that all things considered, he did set the foundation for other leaders to build on. He was definitely a leader. Some aspects of his work is worthy of emulation in terms of his legacy. I don't think that there are many leaders in St. Lucia could point to their legacy. When you see that particular individual, what can you think of? What really the initiatives that they would have undertaken or launched programs that clearly stand out right now, and you can attribute that success to them? Almost nothing at all. I mean, you talk about Rodney Bay. That's Sir John Compton. Certain developments, Sir John Compton. The buildings on the waterfront, Sir John Compton. Tourism is Sir John Compton. We have a call, 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages, 716-2026, 716-2026. I think we had a call coming in, but we have lost that call. Any comments in the chat room?
Someone says no one can fit in Sir John's shoes. Another comment in the chat room. The grown-ups who are supposed to set examples are the ones doing the bullying. What do you expect from the children? Someone says that parents need to always boost their children's self-esteem. Another comment, teach them not to bully other children.
We have a call. Hello, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Tim.
Hi, good afternoon to you, Rick.
Yeah, was it yesterday you had a police officer talking to you about succession? What they call a succession plan and so on?
Yeah, Mr. Herman Gil Francis.
Yeah, and you also had
Mr. Severin Mosherry. Actually, it was it was day before.
Day before.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little investigation, a little research, and I was also in the course of research talking to a particular gentleman who said to me, Rick, the police force has never had a succession plan. That the police force, what they had was a political plan. What is being called a succession plan is in fact a political plan.
Explain that.
Good. I would hope you would ask me to do that. You remember Vernon Augustine?
Yes. Fives.
Commissioner.
Mm-hmm, I remember.
That was what, the 70s?
That would have been the 80s.
80s?
Yeah.
He retired as deputy under one regime and was brought back and appointed commissioner by another regime.
Yeah.
Francis Nelson, remember him?
Yes.
He retired on age under one administration. As soon as the new government came in, they fired him, and he was replaced. You can go down the whole list, and you will find almost every commissioner, if not all, was booted out with the arrival of a new administration. So how can we talk about succession plan? It's no wonder there's no succession plan. Also, it was the norm for there to be advertisements for the post of commissioner. Remember that?
I can recall, yes.
Yeah. Now, let's just analyze that for a minute. If there were in place a succession plan, it would mean that there would be somebody that already the official eye was on.
Or at least 2 or 3 people.
So 2 or 3, but among those 2 or 3, there would probably be one. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But but you get my point.
Mm-hmm.
There would be one who probably knows that everybody knows he would be the number one choice, and maybe everybody on board would agree with that because he's so far ahead.
Because there was one particular period when you had those people who were earmarked to or interested in being police commissioner being actually interviewed,
Yeah.
and graded and scored.
That's right.
Yeah.
But how does that sit with advertising a post? If you already have 2 or 3 guys that you have earmarked for the post of commissioner, and you advertise a post and somebody comes who is better than all 3 of them, do you hire that person over one of the 3? Has that ever happened?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to mine either, but it's also a troublesome thing as well. Because notoriously our police force is not happy about having the head position held by anybody but a St. Lucian. Remember the time of Pierre?
Mm-hmm.
Was from Dominica, I think. He was from Dominica. You remember the time of the white people?
You had the Canadian Neil Parker. You also had you also had a Trinidadian. I think his last name was Alexander. I think.
Good. So now it makes you think. The police force team has long been turned, and I tell you, we keep on doing the same thing over and over and over. You cannot find any serious, significant differences in the operation of successive administrations. You will have people pointing to you and accusing you of whataboutism. If you say this about that, that's a nice trick to stop you talking about it. But if the same thing keeps happening over and over and over, you are left no choice but to point to how long it's been going on, and it was tolerated this and tolerated that. So you'll find a Labour Party guy wants to kill you. We talk about whataboutism, and vice versa.
But whoever anticipated that this administration would have the necessity to bring somebody who had served in the post of police commissioner back to serve in that same position, when was in opposition, they were so critical of the previous administration for doing just that in the case of Mr. Milton Daisy?
Well, it happened also, I told you, in the case of Nelson, and it happened in the case of Augustine. So that's not even new. It's the same thing. A little research will show you that it happened. Either people were of age and they didn't let them go on and extend it, as in the case of Nelson, and as in the case of Augustine, he was brought back, all under different administrations. That is the coincidence. The minute a new administration comes in, remember Isab Lawrence? Isab Lawrence was pulled in by the somebody fired, and Isab, I think it was Pierre, and Pierre was not bad, I interviewed him many times, and he would openly talk about the problems of the force and things that needed done and so on and so on. He was replaced by Isab Lawrence, who I wrote a lot about as well, and I don't want to speak ill of the dead, so I'll leave it at that. But I think if you try to do a consensus among people who served in his time, they wouldn't have much exciting news for you.
So that's why you were at The Voice?
No, I was at the Star.
The Star, okay.
Early days of the Star, very early days, before we actually settled in '87, etc. So there was a police force then too, with all of those problems. So again, I want to repeat what I said yesterday. If this administration is serious, did somebody say to you yesterday? Was it you? Did somebody say to you yesterday that they thought Philip Pierre was a good guy, but that he was surrounded by people who... Was it your show?
No, I don't think it was NewsSpin, no.
Somebody said that, Tim.
On NewsSpin?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it may have been on NewsSpin.
Yeah, I can't remember.
The guy, because it was yesterday. Somebody was talking about something, maybe not the police, but he made the point. I think he made that point yesterday. I don't know if that's true or not, but and I'm not going to say anything about Philip Pierre, etc. But it's a fact that all of those commissioners were replaced by incoming administration, so that you don't get a feel about any succession plan. And the guy, I think, is on point when he talks about a political plan. So how can you have a guy I mean, look at what happened recently. I don't know the details, but first we heard, and the Prime Minister denied that anyway. First we heard that he was the godfather of
Mr. Ronald Phillip.
Yeah, he blew that away, and the Prime Minister even, I think he brought the guy's birth certificate in Parliament to say that's not true. But the point was, there was that speculation. Okay? All of the administrations, you can find things like even Osbert Regis, who fired him and how he was fired unceremoniously. I don't know how he was fired in the street. and he had to go to court and everything else by one because he was perceived in a certain way by one administration. They dealt him the blow. So if these politicians insist on turning the police force, and it's been going on for a long time, into political parties, factions of political parties, is it any wonder we are where we are? There is also now, and again, the transparency situation. The Prime Minister says that he pulled the recently commissioner out of retirement. He admitted that.
Yeah, Peleus.
And that he has extended her contract by a year. And he gives no reason as to why he would do that.
Well, he gave the reason, for the 1 year. He said that will give him the opportunity, or the government the opportunity, to provide training for a cadre of individuals and going forward to replace the current acting commissioner to the top job.
Have you heard anything more vague than that?
But I don't think, if you have to be realistic, will a year be sufficient to do that?
My point is, if there's somebody there who with a year is going to be, might as well have left that person in position.
Yeah.
Huh? Might as well have left in there a year when you consider what a real is required. And my source was reminding me this morning again that a police commissioner, and I should have known that because I know a lot of examples. A police commissioner does not have to be a police officer, sir.
Not necessarily, no.
No, you don't.
No.
The Americans have had them, and I'm not sure about the English, but I know for sure the Americans have had police commissioners, people in charge of the force, who are not police officers,
Mr. Linwell James. Mr. Linwell James. You remember Mr. Linwell James, right?
Linwell James?
Yeah, he was not a career police officer. He just came in and then he was made deputy police commissioner.
Well,
you remember?
I don't want to go into Linwell James because it's not a nice record.
No, I'm just saying, I cite an example.
But what I'm saying to you is what you need is somebody with appropriate managerial skills. How many players on the police force? 1,000 or so?
About 1,002. About 1,200.
So you want to tell me a good manager of people cannot be commissioner of police with the assistance? Well, not with the assistance. He has a police. He asks questions where need be. We have the laws. We have everything. Police commissioners don't get involved in investigations and all that kind of stuff. In fact, today, in this world today, regular police officers are rarely involved in serious investigations. There we are expecting our police officers to go and investigate crime scenes and crime. In the real world, that's no more, Tim. You have guys who are scientists, forensic experts, and so on and so on. These are the guys who deal with crime scenes, Even in the picking up of samples from crime scenes, we still today, like we used to have in the days of Bob while we here, We still, if there's any serious investigation and ask questions, or if the minister, because nowadays that's another very dangerous thing that the public is paying for. This matter of ministers of government interviewing themselves. No?
How are they doing that? You'll have to explain, Rick. How are they doing that? How are they interviewing themselves?
They stand there and they make a statement. You ask if one reporter asks something, the new thing is to say, kill it. Kill it. When was the last time you had a press conference like we used to have in our time in Vitalis, yourself, Guy Ellis, myself? When was the last time that happened? It's always an.
You have a different group of reporters and journalists now, but the government will tell you, the Prime Minister will tell you, he has his weekly pre-cabinet press conferences taking place.
Well, you mean that thing outside the building?
No, inside the building on a Monday.
He has weekly
pre-cabinet press conferences.
He would tell you that. Okay. Well, I suppose that's what passes for press conferences nowadays. I suppose, and we see the result of that. Whatever you want to say about Kenny Anthony and those guys, they had real press conferences. Mario Michel called a press conference after the Helen affair. Remember that?
Yes.
Famous.
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of famous press conferences on the record. Here it is more an ambush thing, or the people who are interviewing the Prime Minister are people, I don't want to call them names, but very associated with the government in office, and the questions really are not questions. They're just statements. Just do it yourself. But anyway, that police thing, I think you should put it under the microscope and see why we have so much trouble with our police and why we will continue to have problems with our police until we make a radical change in how police officers are chosen, the kind of training we give them. Is the training consistent with the kind of criminality we have going? Kenny Anthony has said it is not. Okay? So let's start it from Kenny Anthony. He says what we have there is not in harmony with what we are faced with. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Still to come, somebody says he does not know the rationale for bringing Mrs. Peleus back at the helm of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. As you continue to watch NewsSpin on our NewsSpin Facebook page, YouTube, and you're listening on Power 97.9 FM.
It all started with a penny. For over 85 years, we have invested in our farmers, fishermen, people, and our country. When we were called to serve, we were here. We understand what is valuable to our people and our country. That is why we support all industries, including tourism. We are the bridge towards a brighter future and economic growth. When our people, government, and businesses called upon us, we were here. 85 years later, First National Bank St. Lucia Limited is here for you.
There is only one option when they arrive. Our services will make the dead look alive. With Bouteille and Beaufort accessibility. Remember, we have the only private cemetery. No one can match our prices from coffins to corsage. Personalized service you get when Lazarus take charge. Quality service, no package to make your wallet bleed. Lazarus is your true friend in your time of need.
Introducing the new LuSelect Virtual Service Desk, where one click is your access to every service. From My Account to streetlight reports, requests for payment arrangements to settle arrears, change of name and address. Easy online forms give you access from anywhere and at any time. Every service you need at your fingertips. Go to our website, luselect.com, and click on the Virtual Service Desk widget. LuSelect's Virtual Service Desk. Every solution at your fingertips.
You asked for it and you got it. A quicker way to pay your bills online. It's fast, secure, and easy to use. No registration, no additional fees. Flow is now offering FastPay, an online service that allows you to settle your bills in less than 2 minutes. Need a receipt? FastPay will send it to your email immediately. Use FastPay now for convenience, safety, and efficiency at discoverflow.co/fastpay. Flow is keeping you connected.
Night Meds is your dependable neighborhood pharmacy. You'll notice that upon entry, you are greeted by caring professional staff, attentive to your every need. Your prescriptions are always treated with a high degree of confidentiality, and we pride ourselves on providing speedy, efficient service. We carry a wide array commonly requested over-the-counter products, and our prices are very competitive. We offer blood pressure testing, blood sugar, and cholesterol testing. We're open to fill your prescriptions Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Come visit Sadu's gas station on the Miku Highway or call us at 572-6840 or WhatsApp 461-6840 for more information. Night Meds Pharmacy. We are your community med store.
Automotive art is a place to start. Automotive Art is now bigger and better with bargains galore. Automotive Art has expanded. With new exciting products and increased shopping comfort, we welcome you to visit. Celebrate with us and take advantage of our specials. New tires starting at $129, 25% off all tools and accessories, up to 75% off rims, BOGO specials, car care bundles, and other bargains galore. Automotive Art, bigger and better.
In the old days, Tim, there was some sort of process under which persons were being promoted to the rank of commissioner. So in past commissioners like Joseph Lawrence, Cuthbert Phillips, Francis Nelson, Oswald Regis, they all went through a process of being the officer in charge of either the Northern Division or the Southern Division, thereby giving them the ability to assess their strengths in managing a large portion of the island, because the south of the island starts from Mikud to Soufre. So that is half of the police force that is under your control. That was what was being done before. After Mr. Regis, unfortunately, 2008, 2009, he fell out with the government, and then there was this lull. Vernon Foster came in, but Vernon Foster was a senior officer in charge of CID. He had done his work as a prosecutor. He was well rounded as a police officer. And so there was no difficulty in him transitioning into being the commissioner of police. But with Miss Pelios, and I must tell you that Miss Pelios is a friend of mine. I respect her, I admire her, but Mrs. Pelios does not have the acumen of being a commissioner of police. I'm sure you remember that the President of the Welfare Association did in fact say that he sent a letter to her. There was not even a response sent back to the President of the Welfare Association, because this was a hot topic, and it shows that if you are not willing to even touch that topic, which affects women, and you didn't want to touch it, and you left, you're going to come back here. That issue is still there. How is she going to now deal with it? Is she going to just turn a blind eye to it, or is she going to take action against the former acting commissioner? These are things that persons must look at.
Former Home Affairs Minister, Mr. Herman Gill Francis, speaking with me during our Tuesday edition of NewsSpin right here on Power 97.9 FM, as well as on YouTube and the NewsSpin Facebook page. WhatsApp message: the success of any police commissioner depends heavily on the support of the executive and the force in general. A police commissioner may have the best ideas, but without support, these will remain just ideas or failed ideas. 452-2979. Good afternoon. This is NewsSpin. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon. I'm okay.
Yeah, I hope you could give me a couple of minutes, sir, because your last caller said something there, and I don't think it's correct.
What's that?
And you could double check it. Mr. Augustine never served under a labor administration in the commissioner's office. You could check that. You can verify that. For him to say he served on a different administration, that is very incorrect. Number two, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force was served by a gentleman from Antigua called Samuel Brooks. And that force, that Royal St. Lucia Police Force, respected him, and the force did what they had to do. For him or anybody to see the Royal St. Lucia Police Force does not work good under a foreign head, it doesn't add up. It does not add up.
That's not what anybody said, prior to you calling this broadcast.
No, that's what the gentleman said.
No. What he said is that very often what happens is local interests, local police officers do not want to work under foreign police commissioners, people who are foreigners serving in that position. And that is true.
Okay. Let's move one step further. When the position of the Commissioner of Police comes vacant, the first thing that must happen is for that position to be advertised. That position must be advertised. Once it is advertised...
Okay, so I went on Google, right? It says there, Mr. Bernard. Mr. Brand, Mr. You said Augustine. Which
Augustine?
Oh, you're talking about Vernon Augustine. Okay, Vernon Augustine. All right, okay.
Right.
Okay, continue.
Vernon Augustine, Bernard, Mr. Bernard and Mr. Faswa, they all work in the special branch. And these guys, they used to follow me. So I know them inside out. In those days, I was followed. Because they considered me to be a communist and that I was involved in extra, some kind of activity. So I know that. I know these three guys inside out because I was followed in those days. But the point I want to make here is, once the Commissioner of Police position becomes available, the position must be advertised. When the position is advertised, it's not only advertised in St. Lucia, it's advertised within the Commonwealth, whether it's in the Caribbean, Australia, Canada, and whatnot. So different people will apply. Now, what happens? These applications go into the public service, and it is being reviewed by the members of the public service, and then they call for interview. They may come across and say, you know what, let's get down to these 2 or 3 last guys. That's how it is. And then they send it over, it has been sent over to the Prime Minister. Okay, they might say, okay, we want Mr. Timothy Poleon. The commission might say, I think Mr. Timothy Poleon is the best based on this, that, and the X. And that's how you select the Commissioner of Police. That's what I know.
Yeah, but if the Prime Minister does not want that particular individual, then you have to revisit that process. You have to start it all over again. The Prime Minister does not accept anyone dictating to him who should be the police commissioner. Neither the Public Service Commission or even the head of state, the Governor General.
I agree with you. Yes, he has the final say. He has to sign up on it. But the point I want to make here is, and you heard Mr. Mosheri on this. Mr. Mosheri said to you from 2016, he had a full, how are you calling it again?
Succession plan?
That's right. He had that in place. Mm-hmm. But when Mr. Herman Gill came in with the new administration under the Honorable Alan Shastney, they rejected his plan.
No, that's not how Mr. Severa came up with the plan. Do not forget that he was succeeded. He was succeeded by Mr. Milton Daisy, and he went on to work in the office of the Prime Minister, and on that basis he would have provided the plan. So he prepared the plan during the reign of the previous United Workers' Party administration. As a matter of fact, that was the assignment that was given to him.
All right, now slow down here. Go back to that tape. In that same tape, when he told you, I think you missed it. In that same tape, he told you there was already a plan, but they told him that's not a plan.
No, what he...
No, go back.
No, I'm just saying, I don't want to argue with you, Cole. Because I really want to move on. What I'm saying to you is that he was given an assignment, because do not forget that he was replaced as police commissioner by Mr. Milton Daisy. Part of the assignment was preparing a succession plan, okay? And that was under the reign of Shastney as prime minister and also Mr. Herman Gill as Home Affairs Minister. And Mr. Herman Gill Francis, according to Mr. Mosheri, was not satisfied with the plan. End of story.
All right. No, I think you have it a little mixed up, but we could always go back to the tape. We're not going to argue that right now. But the point I want to make here is, Mr. Mosheri spoke to you at length, and nowhere in his conversation did he tell you, or did he say, that he was advised by his superior, who should have been the permanent secretary, to attend his meeting. They were contacting Mr. Mosheri directly, which is wrong.
Which is wrong? No, the Home Affairs Minister No. Hold on. I mean, are you telling me that's what happens right now when the Prime Minister wants to meet the police commissioner? If the Prime Minister wants to meet the police commissioner, you're saying it has to go through a permanent secretary? That's what happens now?
Listen to me.
That's not according. No. That does not make sense at all.
I am not telling you it's happening now. I am telling you what is the procedure.
That is not procedure, sir.
It is procedure.
That is not procedure.
Police, let's go there. The Commissioner of Police reports to the permanent secretary.
Yes, but it does not mean that the Home Affairs Minister, who is responsible for the police force, responsible for the prisons, responsible for the fire service, cannot summon the police commissioner to a meeting, cannot ask for a meeting. That's what I'm saying to you, sir.
My dear brother, under our public rules, you have to go through the channels. You have to follow chain of command.
Okay, caller. All right.
That is the problem we have.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling. This is NewsSpin 452-2979. Your WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Kimani, what's up in the chat room?
Someone says, I've been saying that commissioner does not need to be a police officer. You have guys over the years who have zero managerial skills, yet they are tasked with managing such a vital organization. Then again, if they step outside of the box and hire a civilian, then the ones who believe they have a right to be top cop by years of service will be upset. We have a YouTube comment. Someone says, I think we need about 5,000 police to manage St. Lucia. Another comment, Rick, I agree with most of what you're seeing. However, this current PM categorically stated that he would not engage in certain behaviors, even though his party, when in government, did, because he was not leader at the time. It's disheartening, to put it lightly, or deceptive on his part when the same old things happen on his watch as Prime Minister. He campaigned on being different, but it turns out cronyism, nepotism, and victimization is at an all-time high. Another comment, while NewsSpin is a beautiful medium to vent our societal issues, it should also be used equally by the contributors to offer solutions to the issues as it is used for awareness of the issues. We should be a country of formulating solutions to our issues, not just criticizing. Anyone can criticize, but solutions take a bit of deeper thinking. Another comment in the chat room. Someone says, Tim, that's why we can't get a good commissioner to stay. They want to put a commissioner in control to... They want to put in a commissioner to control.
WhatsApp message, somebody says, all them top cops are political, and even if the position is advertised and the SLP or UDP know who they want to appoint, who preventing that? Yes, they went through the process. But, all right, do we have any more comments?
No, we don't.
All right, let me see if I have any of your WhatsApp messages to go through before we turn our attention to another call or maybe a brief commercial break. Somebody says the Chief of Police, Brooks, was from St. Kitts. Another one says, with a name like Peleus, all I expect is a Pell in service. So until we're ready to upgrade and raise our standards, then is Pell we go get. Let's see if we have some more of your WhatsApp messages there. Okay, that will do it as far as your WhatsApp messages. The broadcast, let's take a call and then a quick commercial break. Good afternoon, this is NewsSpin, you're on the air.
Hi, Tim, good afternoon, how are you?
I'm okay, sir, good afternoon to you.
Just a couple of comments. Recently, I came across a video, which was, it was a taped video of one of our chat shows, and the subject of the video was the Governor General. And for some reason or the other, the host on the show was displeased with the Governor General's conduct in respect of certain things. And he voices objection. Nothing wrong in that, but it is the manner in which his objection was voiced. Now I'm understanding now that the Minister of Education went on that very same station and spoke to bullying in schools and so on. The problem is that when you have things like that taking place with no response by the people in authority, What else do you expect? The language used by the talk show host was not exactly conversational. And he went on and on and on. Now, the thing is, we always talk about civil society and so on. And I fully expected, by virtue of the Governor General's position in St. Lucia, that someone from that long list of civil society would have objected to the position of Governor General being treated in such a manner. And I didn't hear it. And all our major corporations advertised over the medium that was used to broadcast such conduct. So it seems now by continuing to advertise, there's a sort of a tacit acceptance or approval of that kind of a language. And it is this double standard that causes a lot of the problems we have in our country with regards to bullying. And we see it in the House of Assembly all the time. You cannot expect children to depart from what they see the adults doing. As long as it's accepted, they will think that is the way to go, and they will follow it. And thus we have the fighting. I mean, after a long summer vacation, kids go back to school. And I remember my days, you're happy to see friends you haven't seen for a long time. In 2 days, the children were fighting. They see violence as the only way out of conflict. And they are supported in that perspective by what's going on around them. If we hope to change the behavior in the children, it's important that we do change that behavior, then we, the older persons, have to behave a lot differently. Now, in respect of the police commissioner, in any well-run organization, there usually is a succession plan. And what would happen is that when there's a vacancy right at the top, usually well-run organizations look to within to try to fill the position. It is only when they deem that the people who are available at the particular moment in time are not quite at the level they want, then they look to the outside. So the interview process takes place within the institution at first, so that when they decide to go out, everybody concerned knows that you're going to go outside the organization. And even then, when the person is being brought in from the outside, invariably it's usually on a fixed term, a 3-year, 5-year contract, so you have sufficient time to groom the persons who initially were in line, if you will, for the position. And were we to adhere to this, we probably would not have the kind of the sort of a situation where we're having now, where we're fighting and struggling to bring people into the police force at any one moment in time. I remember I was chairman of the Public Service Commission back in 10-11, around there, and we did do interviews. There were lots of people who applied. There were some who were totally unprepared for the position, and there were some others who thought that they were. And we decided that none of the people who presented themselves for interview were suitable. If I recall, we actually advertised outside of St. Lucia. And thereafter, I can't remember how it was dealt with. I think that was around the time when Broughton, Hemingway, and these guys were there. I think one of them ended up being in the position because of pressure from the top. But we've always had those kind of problems within the police force, and it's time that we get this thing sorted out. One would have thought an incoming prime minister, in the context of what we're going through in the country now, we would have thought that the settling of the police force would have been one of the primary considerations for attention. And it surprises me that we find ourselves fighting now to try to get a police commissioner. And the thing is, it still isn't even sorted out yet, even with the reintroduction of the lady who had resigned. Because there are lots of questions to be asked, even around her tenure. We kept hearing about her long and meritorious service. What is the long and meritorious service? We don't know. What has she achieved during that time? We don't know. But yet still, this person who has a very hooded past as far as police work is concerned is being expected to transform the police force or assist in the transformation of the police force in a very, very short space of time. All we can see here is down the line, this thing is going to continue, and we will be searching for police chief forever. Incidentally, I called another station the other day, and I identified, I think it was 16 or 17 commissioners over the past 20 years, since 1960. In actual fact, I heard some names that I'd forgotten this afternoon. I heard Pierre, I heard Neil Parker, And I also heard another person, Brooks. I remember Samuel Brooks. You know what that means? We're up at 20. We've had 20 police commissioners in St. Lucia over the past 60 years. We must have issues in this country. And it takes a very strong person now to try to sort this out. And if we don't get that sorted out, I'm afraid we're going to be going forward in a pretty bad way.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Chartered Accountant, Mr. Frank Myers. The broadcast will continue in just a moment with more of your calls and your WhatsApp messages, and a reminder about a talk show that is about to debut within the next few hours. You're watching NewsSpin on our NewsSpin Facebook page. We are also on YouTube, and you're listening on Power 97.9 FM.
Lazarus's Funeral Home is here for you. Lazarus's Private Cemetery offers a peaceful resting place for your loved ones. With tranquil settings, visitation, and reflection, we believe in the compassionate care of all our departed loved ones. Lazarus's Private Cemetery, let us help you create a final resting place. Make it special. Make it Lazarus's Funeral Home, your friend in a time of need. Payment plans are available for tombs. Call us in Vidbuta at 452-7491 or in New Dock Road, VA4, 454-6555.
Lucilec kaveti ou pour point précaution durant saison cyclone ça là. Mi un petit commission qui kaywen de ou protéger la vie ou ek propriétaire ou. Couiller Lucilec avant ou trim et bien couper pied bois qui pouet ligne électrique. Veillez pour ligne courant électrique avant ou monter l'échelle. Fait assurer l'échelle, scaffold et bout d'outils ou ka servi pas venir moins qui 10 pieds hors ligne courant électrique. Pas jamais servi appliance et ben outils qui ka servi courant électrique. Des wall côté qui mouillé et ben en la pli. Ça c'était en commission hors Lucilec.
It all started with a penny. For over 85 years, we have invested in our farmers, fishermen, people, and our country. When we were called to serve, we were here. We understand what is valuable to our people and our country. That is why we support all industries, including tourism. We are the bridge towards a brighter future and economic growth. When our people, government, and businesses called upon us, we were here. 85 years later, First National Bank St. Lucia Limited is here for you.
Why pay full price for your mobile when you can pay half? Just bundle your home internet and mobile services with Flow and save 50% on your mobile bill. That's money in your pocket every month. Plus, now you get free YouTube and WhatsApp data. And you can share your plan with up to 3 other numbers. Upgrade now and get a free smartphone. Switch and keep your number. Learn more at discoverflow.co.
Get ready for the second annual Zouk a Blanc. Presented to you by Project Chocolat. Saturday, 30th September from 7 p.m. Featuring St. Lucia's #1 band, DYP. The always exciting Ezra, the Fun Machine, and our finest DJ, Hollywood HP, and DJ Shocking. Savor an evening of elegance, souk, and old school rhythms in the heart of Soufrière at Project Chocolat. Secure your tickets for just $80. Grab yours at any sell outlets island-wide or at Mambo's Bar in Soufrière. Tickets are also available online. Zouk a Blanc, a touch of white, where island vibes and cuisine meets pure sophistication.
Admission $100 at the door.
The new home of the best country music is Power 97.9 FM.
Say the stars are bound to fade.
Switch us on Join Me, DJ Jerry, this and every Thursday from 8 p.m. till midnight for Country Gold, the best in country music.
Your bags are packed and waiting.
The new, the oldies, and the goldies. So let's make it a date. This and every Thursday with me, DJ Jerry, from 8 p.m. till midnight for Country Gold. If it's Thursday, it's Country Gold Thursday. Country Gold, only on Power 97.9 FM.
I lead a rich, rewarding life.
Automotive art is a place to start. Automotive art is a place to start.
Yeah, look.
Check. We got a wide range of products that are automotive and do-it-yourself supplies if you got a moment. Smart staff that'll always know it. Got rims and tires from trucks to high performance to off-roading. Start hair tools, batteries, oil, and car care.
Talk show What's Your Point debuts this evening, 6:30, right here on Power 97.9 FM. And the host is Father Albert. I spoke with him yesterday. So here he goes explaining what the show will be all about as of this evening, 6:30, right here on Power 97.9 FM. The show, once again, is called What's Your Point?
What we want to look at is discussing all aspects of society, you know, whether it is social, emotional, spiritual, economical, political, cultural, everything. We want to be looking at it and discussing it and having healthy, you know, and arousing discussion.
You got permission from the Bishop Malzia to have the show?
I didn't write it.
You didn't write it?
Yes.
Because that's, to me, it's unprecedented by St. Lucia standards to have a priest hosting a talk show and a controversial individual like yourself.
Well, probably in St. Lucia, I wouldn't say I'm controversial. I'm just straight to the point, and that's what it is, you know. And I think when we look at you know, the Catholic Church Universal, I mean, I just came from Portugal, where, you know, they hosted the World Youth Day activities for young people throughout the world, Catholic young people. And, you know, you had this priest on stage who's a DJ. And that's what he does as part of his ministry in bringing people to Christ through DJing. You know, there was another group of young priests and seminarians, you know, who rapping, you know, and this kind of thing. So it is only St. Lucia or the Caribbean where we are a bit myopic in our outlook on what the priest should be doing and should not be doing.
The priest is a talk show host in St. Lucia, and he debuts on Power 97.9 this evening from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. His talk show is called What's Your Point? Every Thursday right here on this radio station. What's the message? Good afternoon, Tim. You mean to me to tell me the Prime Minister hates Mr. Chasney so much that even if he realizes that the ex-Prime Minister's suggestions could help the country, he prefers everyone die in the country than to implement some of what the opposition suggested? Since when Mr. Pierre is capable of reading minds? What has happened to Mr. Pierre? What a transformation of character compared to who they said Mr. Pierre was. Is this how he was thinking when he was in opposition? I guess we have been fooled. PJP is not the same they said he is, and Chasney is not the bad guy they said he was or is. And the more he stays as leader, the more he will show us who he really is. I just don't know what is happening with the Prime Minister. Something is not right with him. He needs help, people. Lucians, as sad as it is to type this, it is the truth. People, something is not right with our Prime Minister. So yesterday, Rick Wayne, in his contribution, he said that the Prime Minister should have been magnanimous enough to not only accept the recommendations that were provided by the leader of the opposition as far as fighting crime is concerned, but those should have been made part of a debate, a discussion in the Parliament, and with contributions coming from key stakeholders and, according to him, some of the island's best brains. Listen.
I was very disappointed that the Prime Minister did not call Alan Chasney's bluff. If Alan Chasney is going to sit down, and you know Alan's own history with crime in the country and what he said and what happened in his time, and you know all of that, just as Alan knows what happened with the others. So you both know about one another. You want to tell me, if you ask for assistance and Alan Chasney makes some submissions, that you couldn't take it on and look good taking it on, and maybe have an open discussion in the parliament, not parliament, a special sitting, like those Senate sittings.
Yeah.
You have Alan Jasney, you have your own people, you have other invited people, and maybe you can invite Alan Jasney to invite a couple others. Bring an Adrian Auger, bring Henny Cart, bring one of those guys. What's his name? Our friend who's now gone very quiet, the engineer.
Was that John Peters?
John Peters. And let the people, red and yellow, sit down and listen to those best brains making suggestions on their behalf, looking at the problems as they are.
Part of a contribution made yesterday by Rick Wayne. 452-2979, 452-2979. Your WhatsApp calls and messages, 716-2026. We have a call. Hello, good afternoon. You're on the air.
A pleasant good afternoon to you, Timothy, and your listeners all over the world. TW on the line, Timothy. Timothy, are we running a police force of the 1920s and the 1930s, Timothy? You know, I heard 2 days ago where Mr. Mosheri said he was actually responsible for putting together a succession plan for police commissioner, Timothy. Timothy, that succession plan should have been there already from the inception of a police force, Timothy. They should have had a blueprint of a succession plan for commissioner. What Mosheri had to do was to fine-tune that blueprint. You know, you cannot have a police force that has, you're telling me that in this particular stage in the police force, you know, that you're putting together a succession plan? That should have been done years ago, and that should have been fine-tuned to fit what happens in the 21st century. So, you know, the police force need to wake up. I mean, they know exactly what they have to do. Timothy, I remember a few years ago when I was made entertainment manager, guest services manager, and weddings manager, and my particular hotel, where I used to work for, Timothy, these departments was in disarray, Timothy. So I decided, you know, since I didn't have the experience, what should I do? I called up one of the best hotels in the island, if I can mention the hotel now, Sandals Hotel. And I visited the Sandals Hotel, and I saw the way they were operating, and I took what they had, took what my hotel had, and incorporated it, and I run one of the best departments. The police, if the police force is not being run properly, they should send actually some of the police officers on training overseas to be trained and to see how proper police stations and successful police force are being run around the world. To come here with the same concept, you know, for crime fighting strategy to solve crime in St. Lucia, you know, this is not the time to pussyfoot around these issues. The police should have a blueprint of what it is to be a police commissioner. Now, let me tell you, Timothy, I spoke to many police officers, and they have said to me, appraisals have not been done for a long time. Is appraisals being done with police officers every 8 months, every 6 months, or on a yearly basis? You know, police officers, you know, when it comes to a commissioner, you have qualifications, experience, training, and success in fighting crime, plus the appraisals, plus promotion. That would lead you to become a police commissioner, you know, not by a political appointment. So the police knows what they have to do. They got to put on their thinking cap and do what they have to do for the security of this country, Timothy. I thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. WhatsApp message. Tim, I'm hearing that the Prime Minister, Minister for National Security, is traveling to the U.S. next week along with Foreign Affairs Minister Alva Baptiste to hold a town hall forum on September 17th in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. So could you tell me what was the significance of the Minister of Housing coming to the U.S. to attend the UN meeting and is about to make his way back to St. Lucia when the Foreign Minister will be here a week later? Isn't that a waste of taxpayers' money? 452-2979, WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Let's see there. Somebody says, I like most listened to the former commissioner when in the end he said the election came about and government changed, but recommendations were not carried out, or was I wrong? Let's see if we have some more of your messages. Okay. All right, Kimani, I think you have some comments to go through from the chat room.
Someone says, what has Shaz to lose when his suggestions for combating crime are rejected or ignored? Another comment, we are nowhere ready to deal with bullying when we have totally lost respect for those in authority. In which other country can a talk show host insult and challenge the Governor General in his capacity? When does this type of behavior become challenged by the powers that be? Someone says, callers, so how many times must talk show hosts continue to expose his boorish behavior and for the sensible few to speak up against it, yet the government seems complicit because he's a supporter and promoter, so they say and do nothing about him. Tired of your nonsense in St. Lucia. Someone says, true caller, I was appalled at that behavior towards the office of the Governor General. Another comment in the chat room, someone says, you were not wrong. He did say that. I believe that's it in the chat room, Tim.
Thank you so much, Kimani. We are waiting some more of your calls. Good afternoon. You are on the air. Okay, what was that call? 452-2979. WhatsApp calls and messages 716-2026. Hello. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Timothy.
Yes, good afternoon to you, Miss Charles. Or Mrs. Charles.
It seems like you've been expecting my call.
No, I was not expecting your call. Go ahead.
Good afternoon to Kimani as well.
Hi, good afternoon.
Timothy, I've been following on some of the other talk shows as well, the discussions with reference to the police force and the reinstatement of the Commissioner, Ms. Pelius, as the Commissioner of Police. I thought I wanted to make it very clear after discussion with the political leader and the team that, number one, because there seems to be, because of the statement made by former Minister Francis, that the United Workers' Party is objecting to the appointment of Ms. Pelius as the Commissioner. I want to say that the United Workers' Party is not opposed to the appointment of Ms. Pelius as Commissioner in principle. I think some of the concerns that we have is that, and especially there's a lot of discussion surrounding the appointment, is that she was appointed and there was a big hoorah that was made about her being the first woman commissioner. You remember that?
Yes.
I think the government was very proud of the fact that they had appointed for the first time a woman as the commissioner, etc., etc. And her appointment was only for a short period of time. I think it was either a year or less than a year. And so one has to ask, well, what was going through the mind of the Prime Minister, who's the Minister for National Security, with reference to succession planning, knowing that she was of retirement age, she was given a contract as an extension, and if there was any real interest in restructuring the police force, if there was any real interest in ensuring that there was a proper plan, I don't know that she would have been appointed for such a short period of time. She would have retired or her contract ended, and a few months given Commissioner Joseph, is it Phillips, to be acting commissioner for a while, and then to bring her back. So that is what raises a lot of questions to us. It shows that there is a lack of planning, but it also shows that there was a plan as well. And I think every day the Prime Minister, I mean, I have to say I was very disappointed in the Prime Minister saying that the United Workers' Party wants there to be chaos and likes the fact that there is crime happening in the country. Timothy, when crime happens in this country, it is to nobody's benefit, you know. It is not to the benefit of the government, and it is certainly not to the benefit of the opposition. So when the Prime Minister makes a statement and says that the United Workers' Party wakes up every morning looking for chaos or wanting there to be chaos, that's a shameful and a distasteful statement. I think the Prime Minister should really focus on the job at hand, that crime is a problem in this country. Crime didn't start under Philip J. Pierre. It didn't start under Alan Sassney. It didn't start on Kenny Anthony. It's been there for a long time, and there has been this progression. Sometimes you have a little lull, and it progresses, but nothing serious has been done by any administration that has created such an impact that you would have wanted. So the Prime Minister, I think, owes not only the United Workers' Party, but the nation an apology. Because when criminals go around, Timothy, criminals don't say, oh, that's a UWP house, we'll not attack them, we'll attack a labor. Or that's a labor, we'll not attack them, we'll attack a... Criminals commit crime because of their own reasoning, their own rationale, whatever the issues are, etc. Has nothing to do with UWP or Labour Party. And so for the Prime Minister now to say that there is nothing, I mean, in essence, that's what he said, that there's nothing that he would want to have from the opposition when it comes to crime. Because we have rewritten the letter that was sent to him. An open letter was sent to him in genuine, by the leader of the opposition, being very genuine to say, listen, we have a problem. And Tim, I have to say something. I remember when we were in government, there were many times there were serious issues affecting this country. And before the then Prime Minister Alan Shasley made a decision, he made it his duty to call on Philip JP. And he can call, his people can call and verify that if he's a truthful and an honest man. That he would say, listen, I need to speak to Philip about that. I need to give him that respect, etc., etc. Sometimes he would call himself. Sometimes he would make the cabinet secretary, who was Ben Emmanuel, who can also verify that, to call Philip and say, listen, there's this particular issue. I want to let you know we'll be taking such action or we'll be doing this, that. And that's what a leader does. I can tell you, from the time Philip JP has been Prime Minister in this country, not once has he picked up the phone to call Alan Shasley as a former Prime Minister and as leader of the opposition to consult on anything to do with this country. Even the last time when it was supposed to be his duty, remember when they had the NIMAC meeting about the storm that was upcoming?
Yeah.
The opposition was never invited to the NIMAC meeting. And I can tell you there was not one NIMAC meeting we had, whether it be because of storm or whether it was because of COVID, that the opposition was not formally invited to participate, to come in, etc., etc., etc. So when we talk about people who do not have the interest of this country at heart, you can clearly see where it lies. Because to my mind, this Prime Minister does not have the interest of this country at heart. All he has his interest in is in politics, playing politics, gaining political mileage, and protecting the victory. That's what it is. So for me, I think that there are questions to be asked as to why Ms. Pelius was allowed to go, retire, or her contract ended. You gave a small stint to Philip. And I think it was a testing ground, Timothy. That's what goes through my mind, because the allegations about the gentleman were there already. But as traditional, he thinks that St. Lucian's would just let this slide, so he'll bring the gentleman in an acting position. And if nobody makes noise, if you don't make sufficient noise, then we will keep him. But I am glad that St. Lucian's, not only the opposition, but St. Lucian's and women in St. Lucia in particular, and thanks to the men, we stood up. And even the police officers in the background who stood up and say, there are allegations around this man. We will not accept him until you conduct an investigation. And that is why Ms. Pelius was brought back. So they were testing the waters to see what would happen with Ronald. So it didn't happen. So they've now brought back Ms. Pelius. And so I am calling on Ms. Pelius right now. You have been brought back. I have been told there are certain responsibilities that have been given to you. I wish you all the best in doing that. But first and foremost, I will be agitating to Ms. Pelius to ensure that an investigation is conducted to clear or to verify the veracity of the allegations that is made against Mr. Phillips. I do not think, in my opinion, that he should even be acting commissioner or deputy commissioner right now on the books. Now that Ms. Pelius is back, he should be removed from his duty until that investigation is conducted, and whether he's cleared, then he can be back, or if there's any veracity to it, the necessary course of action will be taken. But I am saying to you, Timothy, again, the United Workers' Party has no objection. This was Mr. Francis' personal view, and he is entitled to that as a former minister, as a former police officer, etc. He's entitled to that. But I just want to say that we wish Ms. Pelius well, but we expect that she will come through on the responsibilities that have been given to her. Thank you very much.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much for calling, Mrs. Nancy Charles of the Opposition United Workers' Party. And just a reminder of our NewsSpin news of the day. I read it earlier on, but in case you missed it, UN expert sounds alarm over contemporary forms of slavery in Canada. UN expert sounds alarm over contemporary forms of slavery in Canada. And don't forget, the debuting of the talk show, What's Your Point? This evening right here on Power 97.9 FM, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And the host is Father Albert. This has been another edition of NewsSpin. My name is Timothy Poleon. Be safe, and we'll be back, God willing, tomorrow afternoon, same time, 12:30, with another edition of the broadcast. Goodbye.